We have exciting news for you. Early exit poll results coming in from the Virginia governor's race. CBS News elections and surveys director Anthony Salvanto joins us now. The question, Anthony, is what is the latest? And
Major, I can report that the first trickle of votes are in from Virginia. It's only a couple thousand votes. There's going to be 3 million, and that's important, but it has started. Oh, wait, and look, you are seeing this map light up as I'm talking to you and votes coming in. And that's important to everybody out there because we are here at the decision desk. As we see the votes come in, we're going to light this up. We're going to show them right to you. And I love that shot of Ed as he was watching the folks actually come in and start counting them. Right. It starts there, and we'll get them here.
And that sound of them rolling toward the counting area.
It's perfect.
Dramatic. It's television.
It's perfect.
Of a live variety.
So this is that's the supply chain. So what we've got is a toss-up right now. And why do I call this a toss-up right out of the gate? Because in the exit polls, and based on what we know of the early vote, neither of the candidates has a significant lead. We can't determine either one. So that makes it a toss-up. But I do want to point this out to you because this is going to be so important as we go tonight. First, the early vote. Right now, it's maybe just under 40% of what we think the total vote is going to be. And on that, we estimated that Terry McAuliffe had a lead. Maybe it was 20 to 25 points. That's important because then on the election day vote, right now, we can estimate that Youngkin has something between an 8 to 12-point lead. Again, that was just on the exit polls, and that's not all processed yet, so it's still coming in. But what's going to happen there is it's going to be this difference. Can Terry McAuliffe get enough election day turnout to stave off what would be a Republican surge on that election day vote? And I think that's going to be really key. And then you start to watch things come in. The other thing I want to show you folks is where do we expect the votes to come from? And this is important. If I rewind the clock here, I go back to the 2020 presidential race. I'm going to turn Virginia on its side. And what you're going to see is this blue area up here, the D.C. suburbs. That's where so many votes are going to be cast. So if I show you that, these bars show the relative number of votes that were cast in that race. And you can see that these D.C. suburbs, maybe they cast almost just under 1 in 3 of the state's votes. Terry McAuliffe needs big turnout up there in order to win, and then Youngkin will need at least some crossover voting as that comes in order to sort of offset the Democratic advantage up there. So that's sort of the lay of the land as we start to see things come in.
It's pretty remarkable to see that graphical sort of representation here. You really get a sense of the population density there.
Yeah, and I want to emphasize that to everybody because what happens is we see maps, and you see red and you see blue, but in 2 dimensions, it looks like that's even. But when you get a big county where a lot of people live,
why does it matter so much?
Hundreds
there you go.
Of thousands of votes.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
What about issues? You know, as we wait for more results to come in, what are the issues so far that voters are saying are most important to them?
You got it. Well, one of the things that struck me about the out of the exit polls is that the economy was just a little bit ahead of education, Elaine. And this, I think, is important because it reflects how the race shifted in the final weeks. We talked about a national race early on, a month ago, but that education issue has clearly come up, and it actually eclipses, and I think this is really important too, it eclipses coronavirus. And what's important is that that was such a big factor in 2020 races. And, you know, for Democrats, they wanted to make handling coronavirus an issue. It certainly was important back in the California governor's recall. But the fact that it's down low here, you know, that's probably one of the things that's troubling the McAuliffe campaign.
So I can tell you, Anthony, I live in Washington, D.C., I've been watching the TV commercials for the better part of months. And for a long time, Terry McAuliffe focused on 3 things: who he was, what he'd achieved, number 1, that Glenn Youngkin was like President Trump, trying to tie those 2 together, and education. He'd been a strong education governor. Suddenly, in the last 3 days, it became Terry McAuliffe created jobs. Terry McAuliffe is the jobs candidate. Jobs, jobs, jobs. It tells me that they saw something in the data even before this, that the economy was more important than they were emphasizing. They were trying to get a last closing message, identifying McAuliffe and jobs. That seems to me consistent with the data you're just talking about.
Yeah, I think it is, because I'll pull up that slide for you, Major. One of the things that we saw was that most Virginians thought that the state of the state's economy was at least good, if not excellent. Not excellent, though people rarely in polls ever say it's excellent. So let's not, you know, let's keep this in context. But good, you know, if you're the quote-unquote incumbent party, which frankly, you know, the Democrats are, you'll take good. And so that's probably one of the reasons that the McAuliffe campaign maybe takes some heart, and maybe that's what they saw.
Exactly.
So what about, as far as Glenn Youngkin's campaign here, we talked a lot about how over the summer we saw this lead for Terry McAuliffe, and then as this education sort of umbrella of issues really took hold, the momentum seemed to shift. So how are things looking for Glenn Youngkin today?
Yeah, I think it's really going to be about whether or not, first of all, whether or not he can win independents. And sometimes, frankly, we overuse the term independence because somebody can call themselves independent even though they always vote for one party or the other. But in Virginia, this is going to be particularly important because in the pre-election polling and now in the early election polling, you've seen Youngkin winning independents. And I think that's going to be certainly something to watch. And when we get back to those counties, we start talking about whether he can cut into some of those Democratic margins in Democratic areas. That's going to be essential.
I don't mean to put you on the spot, but can you do something for the viewers to show them Fairfax and Loudoun counties?
Yeah, no, in fact, I would happily. This is going to be the core of it. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. Again, we're going to go up to these D.C. suburbs, okay? And we're going to watch these all night. Now, frankly, historically, these haven't always reported early, so it may be kind of a waiting game as this happens. You may start to see as we go along a lot of the more rural counties, the red counties, start to come in ahead of them. But this is going to be really important. We're going to get to Fairfax. We're going to get out to Loudoun. For context, folks, as the D.C. suburbs have grown, as the population there has grown, these counties have become and are very relatively affluent. They have a lot of Democrats there. They also have some of the highest college degree holding population percentages in the country. All of those are characteristics of the kinds of counties that have been voting Democrat increasingly over the last 10, maybe more so years. So this is where the Democrats, any Democratic campaign in Virginia really needs to make hay. And it's one of the reasons that until now we've often characterized Virginia as a lean Democratic state. So those are places where, as the votes come in, it's not just going to be about whether or not Terry McAuliffe can win them, but I think if he doesn't win them by enough, if he ends up somewhere, let's say in Loudoun, where he gets down to, I'll say, ballpark, if he ends up at 52 with a narrow win, that's going to be trouble. He's got to win that by, he's got to win by more than that. So that's the kind of idea. It's not always whether or not somebody wins a place, but whether they win it by enough in the core places where Democrats or Republicans really vote.
Anthony Salvanto, we thank you so much, and we'll see you as the night progresses and as the numbers come in.
Indeed.